I recently asked 10 of my friends how they feel about change, and 8 of them answered, I don't like it. Change scares me. Quote, fear of change almost ruined my life. I had one friend say change excites her. It opens new doors, new opportunities. It's actually something that she's trained herself to look forward to. And the last friend said, quote, change is just a part of life. Fearing change is like fearing getting in the car every day will lead to an accident. If I let fear keep me from change, it's like sentencing myself to never leaving my house. So a couple months ago, I made a pretty big decision. I decided to move my entire 2-bedroom apartment into a storage unit. This wasn't something that I decided overnight. When you make a change this big, like where you're going to be living, you obviously need to have some pre-planning, have a bit of a plan in place, of course. Last year I was traveling a lot, including for long stretches of time and a lot of international trips. I was able to go to Ireland and Iceland and Greece and Italy. And I'll be honest that the thought crossed my mind last year of why am I paying so much money for this apartment that I am barely in. I really started to call my apartment just the place where like I would come and change, you know, I would unpack my suitcase, repack my suitcase, and I would be out again. I was barely spending the night there and I was just gone so much. I thought, is this the smartest thing for me? And I came as far as browsing some storage units in my city of Las Vegas. I ended up not going for it, and I re-signed my lease at my apartment complex last summer. And if you get down to it, why did I do that? It's because I was scared of change. I was more comfortable with what I had known. I'd been at that apartment complex for 4 years, and even though I wouldn't say I was necessarily happy with the apartment complex, it was more comfortable than it would have been to make a change and to make such a big change, like putting your stuff in a storage unit. Have you heard the term comfortability breeds complacency? Because I have. The phrase comfortability breeds complacency suggests that becoming too comfortable can lead to a state of self-satisfaction and a lack of motivation for growth, change, or innovation. And I am sorry, I just do not believe that is me. But sometimes I need to be reminded of that, and maybe you do too, which is what this video is all about. When I think about all the times I was scared to make a change, I've realized a lot of those times I'm afraid change won't equal better, or that times will be harder before they get easier. And that's a mindset that I needed to move past that. There is never any guarantee that a change is going to automatically equal better or equal better quickly. Taking on a new job, moving to a new state, ending a relationship, it might not always be the better option, but it will always teach you and I something. And most likely life is going to look and feel harder first. And there's so many times that I've made a change and I thought this was the wrong decision. This was the wrong decision. What have I done? And then with time, I realized in hindsight that it actually was the best decision for me. But sometimes it's a little hard to get to that place. We have to remember that change and growth are uncomfortable, says literally everyone who talks about the topic of change. Even if the outcome isn't what I pictured, change forces growth, and growth is where confidence, resilience, and new opportunities live. Even when it's uncomfortable, it can prove that you're not staying stuck. And if that's how you feel right now about something in your life, I just want to say that is such a normal feeling. We all feel that. And it's also okay if you make a big change and it doesn't come out the way that you imagined. Maybe that new job isn't your dream career. Maybe that city you moved to isn't actually the dream city that you had pictured in your head. Just because you make one change doesn't mean that you can't make another. For me personally, when I decided to move from Iowa to Vegas, I definitely had a lot of fears of what if the city isn't all that I've thought it to be, right? What if the city never actually feels like home? It was a big reason why instead of buying a house in the beginning when I first moved here, I rented an apartment because I was too afraid to that felt really permanent of buying a house here, and I was afraid I was going to feel stuck to Vegas if I did that. So I thought, let me just rent first, see how I like it, see how I feel, see if I want to stay here. But I also knew if I moved here and I really hated it, I could move again. And yes, maybe I couldn't move right away. Maybe I would have to save some more money, and I didn't want to move my dog around that much and that sort of thing. But just because you make a change, it doesn't have to be the most permanent thing in the world. You can change again and again. You can move on again. You can try something new again. I think sometimes I get in the mindset so much of I'm going to make this one change and that's just it. That's final. And that's not the way that life is. You can move again. You can start a new job again. You can grow out your hair again. Again, the change doesn't have to be permanent. But what you learn from the change and what you've gone through, that is what is permanent, that is what sticks with you, is the lessons that you learn. For me this year, I wanted to lean into that why not mindset again. If you've been with me since around the 2020 timeframe, you might know or have heard the story of my aunt passing away. And one of the last things that my aunt said to me when I saw her was that she had an idea and she was really excited to share this with me. And it was, I believe, going to be career focused. And she thought, I think a lot of people will think I'm crazy or not believe in me, but why not? Why not me? Why not just try it? Before she was ever able to tell me that idea or to actually begin that idea, she passed away 6 weeks later suddenly. My aunt was in her late 60s and she was still not afraid to make a change. So when I received that phone call, when I was at her services, when I was thinking about things, I kept coming back to that phrase that she had said to me was, why not? And from 2020 to now 5 years later, I stick with that phrase so much and I try to make sure that's how I'm living my life. I wanted to borrow some of your time today to share some of the things that I have learned since it has been 2 months since putting my apartment in a storage unit. Some of those mindset shifts and realizations that I've had, some that don't really surprise me and some that actually really surprised me. I thought it would be fun to sit down and share these with you. My most recent video that I did was a shop my stash from my storage unit. So I actually took you in there. You got to see where all of my stuff is. You got to see my makeup collection. I went through and chose out my on-the-go makeup bag, my daily makeup bag that I call it. And I had mentioned that I thought about doing a mindset video and I got some comments saying that you guys would want to see that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, take something away from it. Maybe it will be a little push for you to make a change in your life, whether it's big, whether it's small, or maybe just start to motivate you to craft a plan for something that you want to make, that you want to change. Because, looking back at all of the, especially, bigger changes that I've made in my life, there's always been a plan in place. Like I've said, I didn't just wake up one morning and be like, I'm gonna put my stuff in storage unit tomorrow. Plan has to be in place for that. I didn't just wake up one day and think, I'm gonna move from Iowa to Vegas. Lots of plans. That took a lot of time and planning. So maybe that will get you started making a list of things, of goals, of things that you want to have different, right? Or maybe it will simply remind you of how capable you really are. I'm just gonna start off with the biggest one. I don't go back for my makeup collection. And in a way, this is definitely a surprise for me. And at the same time, I guess maybe not the biggest surprise for me, but I've been a beauty YouTuber since 2016. So that means in the course of 10 years, I've accumulated a pretty massive makeup collection. And again, if you've been with me through the last few years, through my 2020 mindset, through moving from Iowa to Vegas in 2021, downsizing from a 5-bedroom home to a 2-bedroom apartment, now to a storage unit, you may have noticed that my collection has slowly been whittling down. I've done more cutthroat declutters, more frequent declutters. I've removed myself from PR lists, and I've put myself on a pretty solid low buy for the past few years now. But still, the thought of packing up my entire makeup collection and just not having it in the room next to me or in the space next to me was a pretty odd feeling. I mean, I've treated my makeup collection like a second part of me for so long. I had an entire room at my house in Iowa that was dedicated to just my makeup collection. When I moved to Vegas, I had an entire walk-in closet. There was no clothes in there. There was no shoes in there. It was my entire makeup collection was in there. So now having it gone, I was like, I'm not sure how that's going to feel, and I'm not sure I'm going to love it. I can see myself, wanting to have more of it with me. That is not how I have felt. I will be honest though, within the first 2 weeks of moving everything into storage, I did go back for my lip liner collection, okay? I'm not gonna tell a lie, I did go back for my lip liners. I have a little, acrylic holder full of my lip liners, and yes, I did my shop my stash and I grabbed out maybe like 3 or 4 and I was like, that'll be good, these are some of my favorites. But the lip liners are the one thing that, like, I want a plethora of choices. I want choices of shade, I want choices of finish, I want choices of brand, I want choices of like different lip combos. Like, I use my lip liners just as lipstick. Like, I have the Fenty lip liner on today and that's all I have. So instead of, like, for me, I've noticed, like, I can't think of the last time I actually bought like a actual lipstick, but I will repurchase lip liners because I use them as my lipstick. It's a little bit cheaper, so it's a little makeup hack for you, but lip liners I did go back for. And of course, if I used up a concealer, I've gone back for that. A brow pencil, I've gone back for that. But like my eyeshadow palette collection, is collecting dust. My like plethora of foundations, I haven't put foundation on my face in probably like 2 or 3 months, because shout out that Bare Minerals luminizer, which I am about to finish off. I'm like eking out any last bit that I can get because it is a limited edition product, but that's all that I've been wearing. So I have all these foundations. I mean, even like blushes, just, it's been so interesting moving things to storage and then seeing what you actually go back for and noticing that my makeup collection is very low on that list. I'm like, I started my Shop My Stash series in January of this year before I really had a set plan in place that I was going to be moving my items to a storage unit. Like, it was in the back of my mind, but the wheels were not set in motion yet when it came to January and I started off this series. And my goal was, when it came to my collection, was just use up what I have, use what I love. Don't be buying as many new things. Don't be keeping as much PR that I get. You know, I used to do PR hauls on my channel and you saw all the amount of makeup products that I was getting. Like, try to pass on, donate, give away. I found month over month of doing the series that I was getting a little bit better at choosing out my Shop My Stash bag. I can't remember if it was like maybe February, and I just grabbed out so many products. And I think I can remember, like, as I was going along, I was like, why am I taking this many blushes? Why am I taking like multiples of so many products? So I think definitely from, you know, January to the summer, I started to get better at what I understood was really working for me in my makeup bag. I was able to start to hone in on what was important to me, what were the categories that I really wanted those different options for, like I mentioned the lip liners, and really start to curate my perfect monthly makeup bag, which I think doing that before moving everything into storage was really helpful, because I already started to learn those lessons. I already started to have ideas in place of, this is what's important to me, this is what I use, this is what I wear, this is my style. And of course, with a few exceptions, like my on-the-go makeup bag, my daily makeup bag, I don't really know what I want to call it yet, but just my makeup bag that I always have with me, like, that is more than enough for me for an entire month. It really is. Like, it really showed me, like, I don't have to wear a new bronzer every single day. I don't have to wear a new eyeshadow palette every single day. I don't have to wear a new blush every single day. I can be happy. Like, sure, I like a little variety. You know, right now in my makeup bag, I have a Natasha Denona blush, which is a little more pinky neutral. And I have the NARS blush, which I have on today, which is a little bit more of a deeper red. Like, do I want to do more neutral? Do I want to lean into more fall? I have 2 different, you know, little eyeshadow duos from Koki. Do I want gold or do I want bronze? Like, it's nice to have options, but I don't need the plethora of options that I once have. Like, the bag that I pick out for a month, I'm solid with that. I do get a little thrill when I pan a product. Like, most recently I panned my YSL eyeshadow quad. I thought that was pretty cool. And then also, like, my Sephora bronzer panned. I thought that was pretty cool. I've gone through brow pencils recently. You know, I continually go through mascaras, that sort of thing. Like the Bare Minerals luminizer that I mentioned before, like, when I realized I was really having to, you know, to try to get product out, I was like, well, I am quite proud of myself. I used to think that I needed endless options, but really, I'm just fine with the basics, which leads me into my next point, which is that decision fatigue is a very real thing. And I really am curious if you guys feel this way or you've thought of this, because we make so many decisions every single day: what to eat, what to wear, what emails to answer. And sometimes when you have so many choices, it actually does get exhausting. I think sometimes it's one of those things that we don't think about because you don't feel the fatigue of like, oh, I just did a really hard workout, my legs hurt, my arms hurt, or something like that. But I think I first started to notice decision fatigue after my divorce, when I was suddenly fully on my own after 15 years of having a partner. And I started to find myself almost getting paralyzed at night when it came to choosing what I wanted for dinner. And maybe that sounds like so weird, but it was just like I could have anything that I wanted and eat it any time that I wanted. And I want to be very clear that I'm saying nothing ill towards my ex here, but I think, you know, like, if you're living with a partner, you're living with a parent, or you have children, you think about them. When are they home from work? When are they home from school? What's their favorite meals? Are they having a bad day? You want to do a little something to cheer them up. You want to make a little dessert for them, a fun side dish, something along those lines. You're, of course, thinking about the people in your life that you have with you, the people that you eat dinner with every night. It's not just about you. Not in a bad way, but it's not. So, of course, it's, you know, just that natural feeling. So when I was suddenly well and truly alone, instead of feeling freedom, I realized that I was actually feeling fatigue. And I've noticed that same feeling when it comes to not just makeup, but even like clothes and shoes, or like what freaking cup I was going to put my hot chocolate in. I had 18 mugs to choose from, and I'm like, is this really necessary? And so I'm honestly very curious if you've ever felt that way, or maybe if you stop and think about it, if you're like, oh wait, maybe that is a feeling that I've had before. I have so many perfumes, I can't decide what I want to smell like on this day. But having fewer products to pick from and fewer clothes to sort through, it just cuts down on that mental fatigue. You just use what you have, and it's enough. I think that's the big thing for me. Use what you have, and it's enough. And it's been such a relief, because I don't think I realized how much energy I was wasting on decisions that didn't really matter. Which palette to grab, which pair of shoes to wear. But by cutting down those options, I freed up so much mental space for the decisions that actually do matter. Decisions for my business, decisions for my health, decisions, for my day-to-day. Like, those are the decisions that I get to cut down, because I don't have as many shirts. I don't have as many shoes. I don't have as much makeup on the go next to me. I just use what I have. It's enough, and I enjoy it. Now I get to think about how I spend my time, where I want to go, what kind of life that I want to create, and it feels like my brain has more breathing room. And I don't think how badly I have wanted to experience that until I finally had it. So I'm really curious what you think about decision fatigue. So speaking of decision fatigue, it kind of leads me into my next realization, which that like my clothes and my shoes and like material things aren't missed as much. And to be frank, this one didn't surprise me as much as my makeup collection, because that's different. It's tied with my work and quite honestly my identity as well. But I've never really been much of a materialistic person. Like, gone through my phases, of course, but I've never been, as a whole, like never been much of a materialistic person. And I don't mean that in like a clap for me kind of way. Like, sometimes I feel like when people say that, they mean it in like a I'm better than others. It's just a fact about me, I guess. But also, like, I could truly care less what makes other people happy. I don't mean to say that in like a bad way or a negative way, but like, if someone prefers to spend their money on designer clothes and it makes them happy, that has no impact on my life, right? And like what brings me joy, because we're different. If someone chooses to spend their money on a luxury car and it makes them happy, like, cool beans. Maybe it's not like my cup of tea personally, but that same person who buys a luxury car might balk at the amount of money that I spend on my travels, right? Again, it just goes back to, we all get to spend our money, spend our time, whatever, currency we're talking about. We all get to spend it doing what makes us happy, and it's going to look different for everybody. It's not up to us to judge where people spend their money, because ultimately you're judging what brings another person joy. And that's just perplexing to me. With that said, I still have accumulated what I feel like is a lot of material possessions: clothes, shoes, accessories, purses. So before I moved all my stuff into storage, I did a declutter, and I donated some items. I put some on my Poshmark. I threw away some items that weren't even in good condition, because sometimes I feel as though I have a bit of separation anxiety. I can be a bit of a hoarder. But after I moved, that's when my eyes were really opened. I rotate between the same two purses all the time. I have a black YSL, which is kind of like an everyday bag, and that one was definitely more expensive, right? And then I have a little pink purse. If you follow me on Instagram or any of my vlogs, you might see this little pink purse, because I call it my travel purse. It fits so much inside. It's deceptively large. It fits my vlog camera, so that's why it's kind of like my travel purse. And it was $9 from Target. So those two purses, those are all that I carry. So why did I have 14 purses sitting in my closet that I never wear, that I never use? I wear the same 4 pairs of shoes. 4. I have Calvin Klein slides that are just like, casual, chill. I have my walking shoes, so like tennis shoes. I have a pair of clear heels that I wear with literally everything. Like in every favorites video or like an Amazon video or whatever. These are like $20 on Amazon. I wear them with everything, with jeans, with nicer outfits, with dresses. Clear heels you can just wear with anything, and they are also so comfortable. I typically end up repurchasing them like every 6 months or so, because I go through them so quickly because I wear them every day, and then they're $20. I just repurchase them again. And then I do have a pair of Hermes slides, so again, these are like my more expensive pair, and that's what I wear if like I'm still casual but like want to look a little bit more put together than like your casual, almost kind of like athletic looking slides. Those are my 4 pairs of shoes. That is what I wear. So of course it's nice to have more options for like casual, you know, dressy or sporty outfits, but I had over 40 pairs of shoes, which was just not necessary for me. And taking away the majority of those really showed me like, these are the 4 that I really enjoy. These are the 4 that I keep going back to. So that was pretty eye-opening to me. And along those lines, I've been able to see which tops, which dresses, which jeans that I actually want to wear over these last 2 months. Like, there was certain items, especially, you know, towards the end of moving, you just kind of like start to panic and you're like, I'm just gonna throw this out. Or like for me, I was like, I'm just gonna throw this in storage and I know that I'll come back for it, right? Like I'm gonna come back for this section. I remember having a box that I was like, I wanna put that towards the front because I'm probably coming back for those outfits, those dresses, those tops, and so much more. But a lot of those items have continued to sit there. I've also noticed, like, you know, again, shirts and dresses that I have gone back for that I didn't necessarily think, but I'll be somewhere, I'll be packing for traveling and I'll be like, oh, you know what? I really want to wear that brown dress. Oh, it's in storage. I should go get it. Like I can remember, you know, my clothes in that way. So I noticed the shirts that I continually reach for and want to wear again, the dresses that I constantly rewear, and it's made me a little bit more creative with my fashion choices, I guess. Like being able to like mix and match. Like I have a lot of outfits that are like 2-piece sets, but it's like, oh, I can wear this skirt and then match it with a different top, and then same, I can just like flip that whole outfit. You know, on one of my recent trips, I didn't pack a lot, but what I packed was a lot of like 2-piece outfits, which I could wear it as a regular 2-piece, and then I could mix and match those outfits. So that was kind of like my travel hack of packing less, but still having multiple options when it came to getting dressed every day on vacation. So having less definitely pushes me to enjoy what I have more and be a little bit more creative with my fashion. But I do also think this could definitely be a more complex topic along the lines of recycling outfits. Like I remember when Kate Middleton was getting slammed by the media because she would repeat her outfits, and it was like, what are you? Poor that dress again? Like I think somehow we've gotten to a place in society of like repeating outfits as seen as such a negative. Like I have friends all the time, I say it myself all the time as well, of being like, I have nothing to wear because everything I've already been photographed in that. You know, I'm around a lot of content creators as well, so we go to events, we take pictures in them, we take videos in them, so it's like, well, I can't wear that same red dress, I just wore that last week to an event, you know. And I think that's a much more societal issue that we've come to realize when it comes to repeating outfits, and it's something I'm trying not to think about as much. I'm trying not to stress about as much. I'm trying not to like keep a timeline of I wore this black dress 2 weeks ago, so it's too soon to wear it again now, right? So that's just another like mindset shift that I'm trying to have. I mean, even when it comes to YouTube videos, like I've talked about it, I've seen other YouTubers talk about it, like we can't be wearing the same shirt in our thumbnails. You can't have the same shirt in your thumbnail like 4 thumbnails in a row. People are gonna be like, what are you doing? Like even sometimes there has truly been times in the past where I've worn like the same shirt, you know, this is when I was posting videos 4, 5, 6 times a week, and I would wear the same clothes and people are like, do you have other shirts? Like, do you own any other outfits? I mean, these are like real comments that I've gotten online, and I'm like, oh gosh, even if I'm batch filming and I sit down and I film multiple videos, best believe that I'm changing my shirts in between them, because people again will be like, are you poor? Do you only own 2 shirts? And it's like, well, maybe I only need that many. But again, that's a little bit more of a bigger, I'm gonna again say societal issue that we have, but just another mindset shift that I'm trying to lean into. And I am, you know, obviously in no way I'm trying to say that I haven't bought any clothes, even in the last 2 months, that I haven't bought any clothes, that I haven't accepted any collabs with my career as a content creator and posting fashion content, especially on a platform like TikTok. My fashion content does very well over there. On Instagram, anytime I post, you know, photos of me in my outfits, I always get asked, link for the boots, link for the shirt, link for the dress, you know, all of those things. So I'm no way in trying to say, like, especially due to my job, that I'm not accepting new items. But I think what it's helping me do is to get rid of them faster, not keep them as long. Either donating it faster, putting on my Poshmark quicker instead of like waiting till I have a hoard of outfits. Like okay, this dress, like I bought it, I loved it, I wore it 3 times, and now I'm gonna move it out because I don't need it anymore. You know, saving a dress for a friend that I think I would look better in. I just gave a couple of my dresses away to some of my friends because I'm like, these are really nice and these are good. I'm just not gonna wear them here. Like, this is someone who will wear them more, right? So all of those mindset shifts has definitely been a part of this journey. And again, it kind of comes back to decision fatigue, and having fewer options actually does make life so much more simpler. I thought it might make it harder, but it actually does make it simpler. And of course, if I'm not buying as many new things like that, then I'm also saving money. So when you don't have the space to be able to put things, you stop buying them. You know, there's definitely been times that I've thought of like, oh, I really want to get this, or I really want to get that. And then I've had the thought of like, where are you putting that? Like, what are you doing with that? You know, like I swear every time I walk into Target and I see the home goods section, I'm like, I need this plant, I need that painting. I'm like, what? I need that candle. Like, okay, what am I doing with it? Right. So, you know, obviously I've seen things like my credit card usage has gone down. And of course I'm saving rent on not having a 2-bedroom apartment, especially what was, you know, in what was considered a more luxury apartment complex, which I do think that term is very like willy-nilly used, especially in places like Las Vegas. But in comparison to renting a 2-bedroom apartment versus a storage unit, obviously like I'm saving money that way. So I can take that money that I'm not spending on rent, that I'm not spending on furnishing my apartment, that I'm not spending on the materialistic things. I can put that into my high yield savings account, which is always one of my biggest pieces of advice that I give when people ask me for financial advice is a high yield savings account. I try, if I ever talk about them, I try to link mine. Anyone can have a link. I use Marcus Goldman. Anyone, it has nothing to do with being a content creator, but anyone can share their link to a high yield savings account. And if you sign up for one, we each get like an extra point of interest. But it's really one of the tools that have helped me set myself up for success when it comes to finances. But I can put more money into my high yield savings account, into my retirement, and also, of course, toward my travels. I've started recently a separate travel channel, and because of all the traveling that I'm doing, and a video that I'm working on if some of my top travel tips, and you know, how to fly first class, business class for less than the price that you're going to see online, how to just travel much more affordably. So if you haven't subscribed over to that channel, I do have my Bali vlog. I hosted a group travel trip to Bali, so that vlog is up. And then my next video I want to do is going to be these travel tips. So I hope that you enjoy that. But I have been a big memories over material girl for a long time. And I think moving my items into a storage unit has kind of like solidified that to me, that like I'm still the same girl that would rather go to a football game in the same black bodysuit that I've worn for the last 4 years with my little $9 pink purse from Target than having those designer shoes that I don't even wear because I don't want to get them dirty. You know, like that is what brings me joy. It's okay if you're different, but that is still what brings me joy. And, you know, there's nothing wrong if your priorities change and shift, and they should. As you get older, as you go through things, as life changes, your circumstances changes, your priorities should change. My priorities at 38 should be different than my priorities at 22. But realizing that some of my priorities and outlook on life haven't changed when it comes to those sort of things, that I think is what is the cool feeling. Like when you think XYZ makes you happy and then you get to see that it actually really does, that is what I think the cool feeling is. And going into memories, I think a big lesson for me was learning that memories don't just have to be tangible things. This was a big wake-up call for me. This was also a tough one for me because I used to keep everything. I've mentioned earlier that, you know, a bit of a hoarder, but like photos, magnets, ticket stubs, seashells, like anything. You name it, like I was going to keep it. And my space was full of little reminders of like trips and experiences because for some reason my thought was like, if I don't physically have this, how can I like prove that I did it? Like, how can I still like remember those times? Like if I can't touch my pom-poms, like I'm not going to remember that I was a high school cheerleader. Like all those memories are just wiped out, right? I need this concert ticket to like hear the noise of the crowd again. But actually, you really don't. And maybe that sounds silly to say. Maybe some of you are like, I realized that lesson a long time ago, but for me, I didn't. For me, I was very into keeping all of those things. And don't get me wrong, like I still have memorabilia that I will not part with, especially with me. I lost my soul dog 2 years ago, and I still have a lot of stuff pertaining to her that is just, I'm not ready to get rid of. I'm not ready to part with that. So please don't go like throwing out special things that actually do mean something to you. But I think it's a good way. This has been a good way for me to look at all of my stuff and see like, okay, this box of like ticket stubs actually is not what's important to me. That might be something more important to you because maybe those concerts, those shows, whatever you saw had a deeper meaning to you. But again, along the lines of like, we're all different. What matters to us, what makes us happy are all different things. And I've been able to really see what is of value to me, what I'm okay to part with, what I'm not okay to part with. But I've learned that memories don't have to be physical things that just collect dust. And I can be more choosy of what really is of value that can stay in my home or now my storage unit and make those upcoming moves with me. Every time you move, you kind of like cut down on things and you're like, oh, I moved to this last time and put it in this closet and I've lived here for 2 years and I haven't touched it. I had that realization several times over when I was preparing to move into the storage unit. But the memories live in me, right? Not with my things. It's the experience itself that matters, not necessarily all of the stuff that I bring home with it. And that takes me to the freedom of letting go. And letting go has definitely given me so much freedom. And I don't just mean like the physical things. I mean letting go of the guilt that can come along with that. The guilt of buying makeup that I never use. The guilt of holding onto clothes that don't fit anymore or keeping items around just in case. Like, I don't think I realized how much of that quiet guilt was sitting in the back of my mind every time I opened a drawer or looked in my closet. There were so many times where these little objects would be a reminder of money wasted or reminded me of a version of myself that I thought I needed to be, which of course is a much deeper discussion that I've had amongst myself and my therapist. But once I started clearing those things out, I realized that I wasn't just decluttering my space, I was decluttering my head, which is something that I mentioned earlier as well. And with less clutter, my mental health space feels lighter and calmer, and I feel like I can be more focused. Just the way, I've always heard people say like a cluttered space equals a cluttered mind, and I really see and understand that now. So all of that is going to lead us into what I'm calling a true value check. And this whole process has been the ultimate value check over these last 2 months. What do I really use? What do I really miss? What really brings me joy? I've been able to pinpoint the makeup items that I love and wear. Shout out to my lip liners, like I mentioned. The clothes I go back to. The shoes you see me wearing in every photo. The same 2 purses that are always on my wrist. Candidly, do you know what I don't miss? I don't miss throw pillows, extra blankets, random decor I never needed. And don't hate me, because I know so many of you are going to get mad at me, but seasonal items. Which is funny because, again, I've never really been a fan of changing my home every couple of months. Like, I thought it was exhausting. I didn't understand. Like, I never wanted to put the time into, like, changing my home for seasonal decor. I know it brings so many people joy, including some of my best friends, and they do such a beautiful job with their homes. But it just, like, really has not been me. Like, I have definitely been sucked into the fact of, like, if I don't have a pumpkin in my living room by the end of August, I, like, hate fall. Which is like against the code of conduct, right? And I don't mean to sound repetitive here, but there's no shade if you put snowflakes up before Thanksgiving, right, on your mantle. Because if that makes you happy, then like decorate away with those snowflakes. But I think what it comes down to is that I believe that I once thought when I would hear the word minimalism, and I started seeing this popping up more on YouTube in the last few years. I really think post-COVID is when we started to hear about it a lot. Of course before, but post-COVID I feel like we started to hear about it a lot. People moving toward a minimalist mindset, a minimal makeup collection, a minimal wardrobe, that sort of thing. I used to think the word minimalism was synonymous with deprivation, but I really don't think that that's the case. And I think minimalism just feels like clarity. This one was a big one for me, and I think it was something that I was most scared of when I thought about putting my stuff in a storage unit. But home isn't things. I think something that held me back last year was fear of losing my home. that without my own space and my own things around me, I wouldn't feel grounded, I wouldn't feel settled. If you don't have a home, you don't have a place to go to, right? So I have been extremely fortunate to meet some of my favorite people after I moved to Las Vegas. And you might have seen my best friend at Ashley pop in from time to time in my videos. And she has opened her home to me before I put my belongings in a storage unit, and now. My partner lives close by to her, and my storage unit is right in the middle of them. And so while I might not have a traditional home base at the moment, I do have people who've opened their homes to me, and people who make me feel at home when I'm with them. While keeping my items in a storage unit isn't my long-term plan at this moment, it's what works for right now. And a big reason that I'm able to do that is the company and the kindness that is around me that I will always be grateful for. Because I fully understand that this is not something that I would be able to do without them. It's not the apartment, it's not the furniture, it's not the pumpkins and the snowflakes and the throw pillows that make up a home. It's the people who make you feel safe, who make you feel loved, and who make you feel cared for. And finally, I think that this has been a reminder that humans can really adapt to so many new situations, right? It's something that I think has been a good lesson in making change, like thinking about making change less scary, is that we can adapt. When you break your arm, like it sucks, right? Like it's painful, it makes your days harder, but you adapt over time. You don't just spend weeks in a cast, like not moving at all because you broke your arm. You get used to it, you get used to the change, you adapt of how it's going to look, right? When your dog dies, your life is miserable without them. You spend every day crying and wishing that they were back, but you eventually adapt to what life looks like without them, and you move forward. You still grieve them and you still feel sadness, but you learn how to work through that to keep going. So whenever a change happens, good or bad, you will learn to adapt and how to grow from it. And if you can trust yourself to adapt, then any change, no matter how uncertain, becomes a little less intimidating. And I think for me, that's a big lesson that I learned through this, is it takes a little bit of time, but I really wanted to end with this one because it was such a good reminder to me. What your life looks like when you're 22, you got used to it, but then your life looked different at 25. You adapted, you changed, you got used to it, and then your life changed again at 28. You adapted, you got used to it, you changed. Like when I really sat and reflected on this video, that was one thing I kept coming back to, is you can adapt to it. You can adapt to the change. And to me, it made that change so much less intimidating. So those are some of the biggest lessons that I've learned in the 2 months of living with most of my life in a storage unit. And I sincerely hope that you took something away from this video. And if you have another extra minute to spare, I would love to hear in the comments if you did. And it's just a reminder that not every change you make is going to work out perfectly. And that's okay, because every change will teach you something about yourself, about what you value and what you don't actually need. If you're scared of the unknown, you're scared to make a change, you're scared that it might not work, I want to say that, remember, you don't have to have it all figured out to make the change. I feel like so many times we wait for that perfect moment, but like people say, there's never really like a perfect time or a perfect moment. Sometimes you do just have to go for it. Like take that time to have the plan in place, of course, but also remember that you learn so much as you go. So waiting for that perfect moment, that might keep you in that comfortability breeds complacency mindset. And that is not what we're going for. So we want a plan in place. We want to have, that set out for us. But then also taking that leap and learning and adapting as we go, that's where a lot of those lessons come from. And because I love a good challenge and I've really seen what minimalism can do, here's my next challenge. I am going to try to take only a backpack with me on my month-long trip coming up to Japan and South Korea. Can I really pack all of my essentials in just one bag? Honestly, I don't know. But I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to keep all the lessons that I've shared here in the back of my mind while I do so. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like I've mentioned the travel channels before, I hope you'll follow me on YouTube, on Instagram. If you enjoy TikTok, I do travel content over there. It's Booked by March is all of those accounts. So I'm definitely going to do one on packing what I bring to Japan and South Korea. I'm not saying I'm not buying things over there and like going to bring a suitcase with me home. Okay, I'm not saying that, but getting there. I want to really see, can I pinpoint what are the essentials that I really want to make sure I have with me when I go on this trip, right? I leave next month and I'm gone for 5 or 6 weeks. So it's gonna be a big one. I'm very excited. So of course, make sure you're subscribed here, subscribe to the travel channels because I'll be sharing all of it with you. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.